Alright, welcome back. Today we're going to be getting into checking out what this Polaris needs to be repaired. We're going to open it up and see what's going on inside. The customer states that the Polaris is just kind of putting around the pool, not really doing anything anymore. So we're going to open it up and see what's going on inside of there. This is a 380 model, and you can tell that because if you look inside, you can see how many jets it has. The 380 has 3 jets. The 280 has 2 jets. And then, of course, the 3900 looks a little bit different, but we'll get into that one later. So let's open this thing up and see what's going on. So the first thing we're going to do is to take the float off, and then we're going to unscrew these 2 screws in the back right here. I have no idea what we're gonna find in here, but I'm assuming it's probably gonna be a broken belt or something, maybe some bearings, but we will check it out. Alright, so we're gonna remove this part first. Make sure you keep all your screws together. Alright, next off, once you have that back plate removed, this piece will come off. This whole top piece will come off if you push in this little front here. Be careful on this part, it does like to break on you. So just be very gentle, push it, remove the case, set it aside. Alright, so if we look at the interior of this Polaris, we can already tell that there's something going on with this belt. It's not supposed to be flipped around this direction, number one. And number 2, it does look a little stretched out. Also, I see that there's a spacer, there's a spacer in here that's supposed to separate these 2 belts, and it's not separating them. They're actually both on the same side of the spacer. So pretty much looks like we're going to be changing the belt in here. Alright, well, let's get to it. If we're going to change the belt in here, we've got to get a few things out of the way. So, first of all, we need to get the frame lifted up off of this base. So the way to do that is there's these screws in here. There's one there. I don't know if you can see this. One screw here. One screw in here. 1, 2. Go ahead and take that one out too. 3, 4. So we're going to remove all of these screws. This one up front here might be partially blocked by the front wheel, but we're going to loosen these up and we can just push it back out of the way, and then it'll be good to go, good to use. I think that's also part of the problem here, is that this thing is not pushed up as far as it should be, which means the belt is not as tight as it should be. So we'll see if that's going to be an issue here. Sometimes the frame or the threading that the screw goes into will just get stripped out, and then the screw won't really hold in there anymore. So that is a common problem with these. So let's go ahead and take these screws out, take this cover off. And then once these 4 screws are out, the frame here will kind of lift up off of the base, and then we can get these tires off here, the wheels off, I should say. Alright, so we are loose now. You see how after I loosen those screws up, this whole base kind of raises up. And we're going to need that because we need to get this off of the base to make it come out. So, alright. I should have had some damn pliers. Oh, I gotta get this screw out of here. Where'd you go? Alright, screws out. Next thing we're gonna do is we're going to take off these wheels. So cap pops off of there. And pop these caps off. And then we are going to pop these little things off. So these are little clips that hold the wheel on. So once those clips are removed, pretty much what we're going to do is we are going to slide this wheel off of this axle here. Alright, see? So pretty much I've removed the wheel. Now we have access to get to the belt. So front wheel is off. Right now we're going to remove the back wheel. Be careful you don't lose the bearings inside of here. Forgot to tell you to sometimes you got to loosen up these screws in here to get the wheel to have a little more play to it, so you can get that belt off. So I'm going to loosen these up to give it some wiggle room. Alright, so now we're going to be able to remove this wheel. So when you take these wheels off, go ahead and give your bearings a good inspection. Make sure they're not falling apart. Make sure you don't lose them. Keep everything tight in there. These bearings don't look too bad. They're probably replaced not too long ago. So now you can see inside and see what the belt is looking like. And you can see that it is in pretty rough shape. This is also part of the belt that came off. So the belt's not totally broken, but it is starting to shred. So this was probably getting tangled up inside of here, which would cause it to sporadically stop, not move like it's supposed to. So alright, everything else in here, I'm going to give it a quick visual inspection, see if any other parts need to be gathered. Make sure you don't lose these spacers that are back here behind the wheels. Keep those on. Everything else looks decent. Also, while you're in here, it's a good idea to check on all of these zip ties, because they do break off sometimes, and guess where the first place they're going to get stuck at? It's going to be right in here in your gearbox. So if you ever do pick up your Polaris and like the wheels won't move, like something's jammed, it's probably because a piece of this has broken off and gotten stuck into here. So just something to look out for. Well, I think that's it for now. We're gonna go get a belt kit and we will return and install that later on today. So I guess that's it for now. I'll be back. Alright, we are back now, and I have the new belt kit now. Small belt and a large belt. They're going to go on like this. So I don't normally suggest buying aftermarket parts when it comes to a Polaris. Like, you can buy a lot of these parts cheaper online that aren't the Polaris brand. It might be an aftermarket off-brand. and they might claim to be the same, but they are not the same. So take a look at the difference in the belts. So the real Polaris belt has like a threading almost inside of here. Like, it's not just plastic, there's actually this thread that's inside of it also, which makes it much stronger. This one here, the aftermarket one, is just straight plastic. There's no threading at all. I don't think it's going to last nearly as long as this one. So for just a few bucks more, you can get the real Polaris version and not the knockoff version. Now, this is a rushed Polaris here. I didn't have an opportunity to get my hands on a real one at the moment, and we're going to use this as a learning opportunity to see how long this thing's actually going to last. I'm anticipating it's not going to last very long at all. So we're going to get this thing back in the pool, get it going, because the pool needs it, and we're going to keep an eye on this and see how long it lasts. So let's go ahead and get it all put back together now. We're still loose here, so we can go ahead and get our belt on. Let's go ahead and put the small one on the back. And we're going to put the large one on the front. So this has a little spacer in between that's going to separate these two belts, make sure that it stays in between the two belts. So now we just have to pretty much line our wheels back up and make sure the belt is attached correctly. Make sure you don't lose these little spacers in here, because that's going to be important for making sure everything is snug when you're done. So let's go ahead and get your belt on there. Watch out your bearings don't pop out also. It's a good time to check your bearings too, make sure they're not falling apart on you, because that is one of the most likely things to go wrong with these Polarises, is the bearings go out. So once we have our wheel on and we have it on the track like it's supposed to be, let's go ahead and put our clip on. That way the wheel won't come back off. We'll snap that on there. Alright, now let's put our front wheel back on. Make sure we didn't lose our bearings. Make sure that this is on the tracking the right way. Spacer in between the belts like it's supposed to be. It's hard to do this and show you on the camera at the same time. So put the wheel back on. This can be a pain if it's the first time you're ever doing it. So after you've done it a few times, it's not so bad. But yeah, the first time you do this, it could be a real pain in the ass. Alright, let's put this clip back on now so the wheel won't fall off. Get on there, buddy. Alright, clipped on. Alright, so let's take a look so far. We got the new belt on, and we got our spacer in the middle separating the two belts. Let's go ahead and tighten these up now. Tighten the wheels up. So if you'll notice when I'm tightening these up, I'm going to go ahead and push this back as far as it'll go back into that corner and make sure it's tight. And that's just kind of putting the tension on the belt. You don't want it to be too tight, but you also don't want it to be loose so that the belt comes off. So let's tighten that up. Alright, the back wheel's tight. This front wheel, remember, has the screw underneath, So let's go ahead and get that in first before we forget about that. And that's also part of the frame, screwing it into the frame, which is going to reconnect the bottom and the frame together. Alright, so we got that one in there. Now we're going to move this wheel up. See how it's got a little bit of wiggle room? We're just going to move it up tight and screw it down. So this one is not screwing down that good. As these things get older, they don't tighten like they used to. So there's a little bit of wiggle room in this, which I don't particularly like. But this is a pretty old model of Polaris. So we're just trying to keep this thing going as long as we can here. Alright, so now that we have those back in, the belt is pretty much done. Let's go ahead and put our other screws back in. So screw the frame back down. Let's put the cover back on the gearbox here. Cover that up. Once again, make sure there's no zip ties or anything broken off in here before you put this back on. It's real frustrating when you get it all fixed up and you get back to the pool and you put it in the water and then it just doesn't move anywhere because there's a zip tie jammed up in there. Let's put the rest of our screws in. Alright, everything's in. Give it a little go, make sure everything's working good. Alright, now, oh, got one more frame screw in the back here, and then we're going to put the top on. Alright, let's go ahead and put the top on. Make sure it fits snug on there. Let's go ahead and put this back plate on. This thing can get tricky sometimes. It's hard to line the screw holes up. Sometimes it can be a pain to get it to grab hold. Sometimes if you get one caught, it'll kind of pull it up, pull it close, and then the other one will catch too. But these can be tricky. Alright, so we're catching on both. Good to go. This little thing should be in the 11 o'clock position. That way it gives it a kind of a down force towards the floor of the pool. So keep your little jet in 11 o'clock. Sometimes it can get moved over time. What am I doing? I'm unscrewing it. Too busy talking. Is that 11 o'clock? Or is that 10:30? I don't know. Close enough. Alright, everything else is good. Put the float back on. Check your float, make sure there's no water inside of it. This one's good. Let's go ahead and put our caps back on here. Tap, tap, tap. Tap, tap, tap. Alright, and that's about it for this. So that is how you change the belt in a Polaris 380. So let's go put this back in the pool and see how it works.